Hey, okay, so today we have an interesting one called Manus. It's kind of taking the internet by storm. If you remember a couple weeks ago, there was DeepSeek from China. Manus is in that same vein. It's a Chinese company that nobody really saw coming. They just came out of stealth mode and released this tool called Manus, which is it's being touted as the world's first autonomous agent system, so computer use system. You'll see it in a second. It's kind of using a computer to solve problems, search the internet, create reports, write programs, a bunch of things, and it really does do a bunch of things. I don't have direct access to it. I'm waiting for that, so I will look through some of the materials they've shared. It's worth taking a look. It's very interesting, and my first impression, this is a spoiler, it's kind of excellent. I definitely would pay for something like this. I would be able to use this daily. There's the before and after real agentic systems, and Manus at least is that window that we can look through to see tomorrow. And in this case, tomorrow is not 5-10 years from now, which is usually the case when we get something like this. In this case, tomorrow might be tomorrow. Right? It's so close that we can look at this and go, wow, it's going to be excellent. It'll be excellent by the end of the year. Let's take a look at what Manus delivers and whether or not it's really the next step or a hint at the next step. All right, so here is somebody asking for a 7-day Japan itinerary for themselves from Seattle to Japan, and they want to see certain things. They're very explicit in their prompt about asking for an HTML travel handbook, and that they like to see historic things. They want to see the city on foot. They kind of want to see Nara's deer, that sort of thing. So a very particular prompt, which is great. What we're seeing here is the playback of Manus doing its work. This to-do system that keeps popping up, I'll show you in a second, is kind of a core function of the way the system works. At the very beginning, you can see that Manus interacts with a Linux system, an Ubuntu build, that it creates a directory and starts writing this brand new file. It's the first thing it does is creates this to-do file, and then it continually updates this to-do file with the things that it needs to do. So it creates a plan, writes it in there, and it has system instructions to come back and update this and remove things that it's going to skip, that kind of stuff. I think that that's a really elegant way to keep a plan for an agentic system that it can keep coming back to and checking. I think we're seeing this more and more. I think these kinds of plans we're starting to see as written mechanisms in a lot of these agent systems. But then what you'll see is something says you need to research best transportation options, maybe the JR Pass or local transit. And the first search that happens is they're looking for the JR Pass, which is the rail pass in Japan. And then it browses into one of these sites, takes a look, it scrolls down, you can see all these actions, and this is actually the browser within that Ubuntu system actually doing its job. So it's very neat that you can see literally what it's browsing, when it scrolls down, where it jumps, and where it clicks into another place. So it's kind of awesome to see it interact with all of the different tools and elements that it has at its disposal. So one of the neat things that you see here is Manus actually messaging back to the user saying, I've encountered a CAPTCHA and I can't go forward. This is a block on TripAdvisor. I need to know what to do. Would you like me to do one of these things? Manus will continue working after you reply. And what the user here replied was skip. And then it continued on with its work, started searching more, and started kind of browsing again, those sorts of things. And if we kind of skip down quickly, you'll see that it keeps updating the to-do system and then comes back and says, oh, in here, let me list all the files that we've created so far. We have a couple markdown files. We have the handbook HTML file, phrases and tips, proposals for locations, and the to-do system. So there's a bunch of stuff already in this directory. And then it comes back and says, okay, let's browse through the file that we have to make sure that it looks correct and is deliverable. And then it comes back and says, I've completed. Here you go, a little summary, your markdown file that describes the overview of everything, but also this really cool, excellent handbook that it delivered, which is one of the things that the prompt was very specific about, that it wanted the user wanted a handbook back in HTML in a single HTML page. So it did a good job here. You can scroll around and see the different sections. It's got the overview and reference about the embassy and emergency numbers and currency conversion, weather forecast. It's also got the full itinerary breakdown. So it's a very interesting travel book that it's put together. It maps for each one of the locations that you might go to, which is just excellent. I mean, I've never had anything like this. And then the key attractions in each one of the cities. If you flip through them, you can see the different things that the deer crackers are 200 yen. That's kind of neat to see. And below this is some essential Japanese phrases. So there's a bunch in this travel book that it put together as well. So it created this awesome little take-along document, if you will, that you could put on your phone and just use, which is really a neat way to ask for this output, because it could have just ended up as a big markdown file that we would see from something like, Deep Research or one of those products. So this is excellent. Let's take a look at some others so you can get a feel for the other kinds of things that this thing can do, because in some of these cases, it builds tons and tons of programs to solve the problem. Like in data analysis scenarios, it's creating a whole bunch of different Python programs to go to the APIs, pull the data that it needs, ingest that data, clean it up, put it down as files, and then do analysis over it. Seeing it do all of that is the thing that really brings it home that this is different, right? This is the beginning for us to see what agency for these autonomous systems is going to be like. And as I understand it, it can take hours to produce this stuff. It's not nearly as fast as the playthroughs we just saw, but the idea, of course, is you go away, it'll let you know when it's done. This is work. You would ask for work, theoretically, that is really kind of hard or tedious to do, and it is okay that it takes a little bit of time. So let's take a look at a couple others. All right, I'm going to dive into the deep analysis of Tesla stock, and I will jump through this one. So let's jump into the analysis of the Tesla stock and take a look. And what I'm going to do for this one is just skip to the results, because it does one heck of a lot. If I scroll, you'll see how big this thing is. It really does one heck of a lot. If we look at the to-do that it creates just for this one, these are the steps that it goes through to do all of this. And it's a ton. I can't describe how many different steps, how many different Python programs that it creates, all of the data analysis that it's doing. It's going and finding information through APIs, pulling the information. It's really a fantastic set of steps that you might take to pull enough data to be able to do analysis. So then it's doing the data analysis across all of this stuff to then finally create a report. So it created this dashboard that it produced that you can take a look at, and it's an interactive dashboard. Now, obviously I don't have the skill to be able to tell you whether or not this is solid analysis, but it is using newer models, right? We believe that it's using the 3.7 models from Anthropic right now. All right, I'm gonna rush through a bunch of these. This is San Francisco Rentals for an AI enthusiast. Now it goes through a whole bunch of different neighborhoods, figures out the sentiment in those neighborhoods, figures out the crime report for each one of those neighborhoods, kind of the price in each one of the areas, how many businesses are in those areas, what they have. I mean, it does a whole bunch, and it's very worth jumping to the bottom. So at the very end, it lists out the different neighborhoods and why they might be useful or interesting to people that are AI professionals. Like they have a safety profile, an AI ecosystem within that area, within each neighborhood, and they rate it on a system itself. So all of this was something that the intelligent system itself decided to do. Let's take a look at another. All right, this one, might be particular, but people that like to ski, someone likes to ski in Tahoe, so they want to just compare ski resorts in Tahoe. And this was an end user that did this, and Manus is exposing it as a replay here so that we can see it. And of course, it goes through and works all of the different stuff that we've seen so far. At the very end, it pulls up this list. Here's the overview of the resorts in Tahoe. It created a table of all of the different ski locations, kind of their base elevations, the vertical drop, how many acres, how many trails, lifts, the average snowfalls, like what the peak month is for each one of them. Let's look at another. Okay, here's one. This one also, I believe, came from an end user, and they're just representing it for replay here. Analyze award-winning movies and movies with top box office data over the past 5 years and try to summarize the change in movie theme, production, casting, and any other insightful perspective. So obviously, going through quite a bit here. Let's finish it and then take a look at the to-do it decided to come up with. A lot of searching, browsing, scrolling, figured out who won. Wow, tons of research, of course, obviously. And some Python programs to do the actual analysis, analyze the different casting. It's crazy. All right, let's just get to the bottom and see what PDF it came up with. So here's the PDF, executive summary, growing divide between high-budget franchise films dominating the box office and mid to low-budget film prestige films winning awards. Increased diversity, representation across both award-winning films and commercial successes, rise of streaming platforms, longer run times, dominance of franchise films. So really quite interesting. I would love to look through this. Actually, this would be very interesting to read. These are the different genres that win. Drama seems to win a lot. Sci-fi does pretty well, surprisingly. Surprisingly to me, at least. Gosh, this is great. So this is them breaking down the different budget trends and the different analysis of studio patterns, technology usage. Wow. Okay, let's take a look at another. Okay, please prepare a report, note, and slide on recent research advances on LLM for education, archive papers within a week. You should summarize each paper with your in-depth analysis and reflection, include overview. Again, good prompt. Okay, so let's just look through the results because we know what they did. All right. Wow. Okay. Who knows? But this sure looks great, at least from a starting point. If you're trying to jumpstart your research into something and you want to kind of get some slides started, I would have never actually thought to do this, but this feels like a very good starting point. That's awesome. Let's check out another. All right. Another one, I believe, from a user. This one's interesting. Research best hiking trails in the Swiss Alps. Pretty big area, but interestingly, I think this one would have benefited from a prompt that described how the output should be put together, or maybe there should be maps, or maybe there should be a map per trail, whatever it might be, because as you see, you end up with just the markdown itself, which is still really excellent. I don't know any of these sites, of course, so I can't speak to it. This is an example of, maybe also ask for an output that is in a specific format. Maybe this is the format they want. What am I talking about? Let's check out another one. Research the Rockerfeller family relationships. Okay, and this is one of the ones that Manus had curated and put together themselves, apparently. So as you can see, it's going through all of the different websites that you might imagine to figure out the report and send visualization to a user. That's an interesting outcome that I see in there to do. So let's skip to the results. And boy, they create this big diagram of Rockerfeller family network visualization. What? All right. This wasn't even in the prompt, so I don't know how I came up with this idea. That's kind of interesting. That's crazy. That's awesome. How many files did it create? Boy, it did a lot of work, right? It created all of this stuff to get down to this interesting diagram of relationship. Let's check out another one. Estimate the permanent resident population within a 2-mile radius of the Cedars-Sinai Urgent Care in Beverly Hills, considering local geography. Then use Los Angeles County Department of Public Health data, project disease prevalence in this population based on epidemiological statistics. Create a comprehensive visualization report with informative charts illustrating these findings. If someone gave me this job at work, I would profusely apologize that there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. I would put my gun and my badge on the desk and say, "Sorry, Captain, I gotta go." So let's see how it did. All right. I mean, I just don't know how to even validate some of these things, of course. Health index, 0.88, 22,000. I don't even know this region, so I apologize. 0.83, 0.84, 0.91. My gosh. Amazing that it comes up with absolutely anything. I'll just pretend that it's all absolutely perfect information because I can't even go do the research to check it. So this is actually maybe the problem in the future, that I'm going to be able to create these reports and turn them in and go, well, here you go, boss. This is, I think, what you were asking for. Hypertension, high cholesterol, obesity in the different regions. Oh my gosh, I have no idea. This is awesome. This is amazing. Let's check out another one. Okay, here's one. Please enter the Kaggle housing price prediction competition. Create Python scripts for data processing or pre-processing and model building, then generate a submission with a competitive score. Okay, so if y'all don't know Kaggle, it's kind of a machine learning website that has a ton of useful information. If you're ever interested in machine learning, I would say go visit Kaggle. They do also host competitions. It's a community of machine learning experts out there that enjoy just doing these things as puzzles, trying to create new models or new preparation techniques, that kind of stuff. You can take part in these competitions. So they're asking this system to go and turn in a score or turn in a submission against one of these to see what score it gets. Excellent. Okay, here you go. This is what I've done. Here's my evaluation. And the user came back and said, I'm not satisfied with the current accuracy. Please show me the results after improving the model. And so it goes, okay, let me try again. And I'm not even going to pretend to be able to read through this quickly to understand what they're doing. But okay, at the very end, it comes back and says, okay, I recommend submitting blended submissions CSV to Kaggle. It combines the strengths of multiple models and should provide the most robust predictions. And then, of course, the user comes back and says, much better, thank you. And their summary, yeah, it's that. I don't know. This stuff's awesome. Okay, so it is definitely worth saying, when I heard about Manus, the first time I heard about it, I did think, okay, that's interesting, great, another open source kind of agent use that somebody's put together. Not unimportant, worth taking a look at, but I did kind of expect to be maybe underwhelmed or think that other people were getting too worked up about something. And after having looked at this, like I said, I don't have access to it yet, but after looking at it, I will say I'm very, very impressed. I definitely have use for this in my life, and I can't wait for these kinds of tools to be commonplace because I do believe they will be. This one is great. It's a great first step, not just for this company, and I don't mean that in a diminutive way. I mean for us as AI users, as the world, for intelligence, those kinds of things. I think this is really that first step into intelligence and being able to see what it's going to be like in the future when the things that are at our fingertips can solve problems or answer questions or create systems that we literally individually could not have dreamt of being able to do, even if somebody had invested in us. Here's $1 million, go solve your problem, go answer your question. I don't even know who to hire. I don't know who to talk to. So this is really fantastic. Who knows the veracity of the results, but that's probably down to the original base model in most cases. So these models are only getting better, and the 3.7 model is definitely a great model. So I really would expect a lot of this stuff is extremely well done. It's very exciting to me. I'm excited that I got excited about it because frankly, I didn't know if I was going to really like it. I thought, oh, okay, let's go take a look at somebody putting together a, semi-autonomous agent. I will say this one has changed my perspective on how fast we're going to get to this stuff. And boy, y'all would have called me an accelerationist before. So I know, always optimistic. Take that with a grain of salt. Thanks for coming along for the ride on this one, and I'll see you in the next one.